Hey, welcome. I'm artist and author Dan Denton. Um, Welcome to my show, Just Another Way to Waste 60 Minutes. This episode is the pilot episode. It's rough, it's raw, it's crude. I screwed up two of the interview segments. I had to re-record them. This is my first time trying a project like this in years since I had an old podcast. And I'm learning as I go. My goal in the future is to do this monthly and to whittle it down to about 60 minutes. It's going to feature a couple different interviews every month. And anyway, yeah, you see what I'm doing. I hope you will come back every month and give us a chance to, just like everything else in the world, give me and my friends and my guests a chance to waste 60 minutes of your life. My first guests on Just Another Way to Waste 60 Minutes are from Keeping the Flame Alive. Chris Dean is a storyteller, spoken word artist, and self-proclaimed magpie poet who writes from the heart of Indiana, where they live with their husband, dog, and too many cats to mention. Along with Wendy Cartwright, Chris is co-founder of Keeping the Flame Alive Press. Their work has been featured online in print anthologies, and they are the author of 2 books of poetry, Tales from a Broken Girl and We're All Stories in the End, published by Storylines Press. And Wendy Cartwright is a poet, author, photographer, reporter, columnist, weirdo, among other things, out of Columbus, Indiana. Her travels have taken her as far as the Mayan ruins and as near as the filling station. Her undiscerning tastes allow her to find creative fodder regardless of location. She has been published in various print anthologies and featured in online publications. She has also self-published 4 books and has another on the way. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my first guests. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Hey.
Hey.
Wendy Cartwright, all the way from Columbus, Indiana, right? Both from Columbus.
Yep.
Both from Keeping the Flame Alive. And Wendy, what's going on?
Oh goodness, what's going on? Keeping the Flame Alive. We just put out the 8th magazine, the submission-based literary magazine. It doesn't have a schedule really, just when we get around to it. But I personally had just had 2 articles published in Indie South magazine. As a surprise, I just had 2 more picked up for the summer issue. I am almost done with this semester of school. I go to IU Columbus. I major in literature, minor in women's studies. Other than that, my hobby of writing poetry, taking pictures, stuff like that.
And Chris is, of course, the co-editor of Keeping the Flame Alive. Chris, what's going on with you today?
Not much. I was inspired by our first failed interview, I guess is a good way to put it. It wasn't a failed interview, just the recording. So I have spent the day working on an actual website since, Wendy's got her own, damn it.
Do you have a website, Chris?
It's not live yet, but I am working on magpie.com or magpiepoet.com.
Magpie, like the bird?
Yes.
Magpiepoet.com?
Yes.
So yeah, just so everybody watching this later understands, this is my first time like doing any kind of podcasting interview, Zooming stuff in like a couple of years since my old podcast. And this interview and another one, 2 out of the 5 I did for the show got screwed up, probably because of my own ineptitude. But so I had to talk Chris and Wendy and bribe them. It was rough, but they agreed to come back and try it one more time. So you got a website, Chris. What's going on? You've got a reading coming up. We've all got a reading coming up on the 24th. We'll get to that soon. But what's going on with your personal writing and poetry, Chris?
I've been participating, not necessarily posting, but in the 30 for 30 with National Poetry Month. Keeping the Flame Alive is producing a poetry night of poetry and music that features the National Beat Poet Laureate of Sweden, Bengt O. Björklund, and U.S. National Lifetime Beat Poet Laureate Ron Whitehead. And it also features Tommy Bays and Katrina. Oh, my brain just. Wendy?
Harper.
Thank you. My brain just shut down. Katrina Harper. And that is at Mickey's Coffee Shop and Books in New Albany on the 30th of April.
Man, that's pretty cool. How long did it take you to learn how to say Bork's name?
I had the absolute pleasure of meeting him last August in Connecticut, and I think I repeated it probably 20 times, and I'm still not saying it right.
Wendy, talk to me a little bit. Keeping the Flame Alive. I've been kind of describing it as a small indie publisher and group of do-gooders. But seriously, you guys have done a lot more than just publish books and magazines. So talk. Where did Keeping the Flame Alive come from?
As it says on our website, Keeping the Flame Alive was one maniacal poet who approached a second maniacal poet, and it blew up. We started publishing one-page front and back pamphlet style publication. We were going to do it every other month, but that didn't work out. And then the second issue was 4 pages front and back, pamphlet folded. And that quickly changed into a folded chapbook. Now it's a full page chapbook. So anyway, we've done 8 issues of that. It started last May, so this May will be a full year. We are on the 4th book, working on getting it published, of the Keeping the Flame Alive book series. They are bound books published by Amazon. The first one was by Ron Whitehead, Beat Poet Laureate. The second one was Debbie Siegel from Berkeley, California. The third was Peter Kaczmarczyk from Bloomington, Indiana. And this 4th one will be Rita Spalding from Louisville. We do website development, management. Chris is a master of graphic design. We do events. We just do whatever needs done so that we can, hopefully help poets get their voices out there.
So Chris, who was maniacal poet number 1 that had the idea?
Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
So let me ask, how many printers have you gone through printing the anthology?
We have destroyed 5 printers.
So
and a computer.
And
yeah. Yeah.
If there were poets and artists and writers watching this later, and they were thinking about making their own home printed magazine or newspaper thing, like you guys have kind of like grown and learned to do, what would be your first piece of advice for them?
Don't do it ever. No, get a decent printer. But I know that people don't have that kind of money, so use that payment plan where you buy those cheap ones for like $49 for 5 months in a row, and then lose your mind, and then buy a good one. That's what I would say.
Chris?
My advice would be fake it till you make it. Exactly what we've been doing. If you don't know how to do it, find a workaround. Who cares about the right way, wrong way? Just go for it. You can regret the dead printers later.
Is there a wrong way to make a homemade zine and magazine, though? You know?
No, no,
Nope.
absolutely
Yeah.
not.
I think that's the beauty. And that's one of the things I love so much about like homemade anything really, but especially like books. You know, it's like they're so unique, they're so different, they come in so many different forms. And there's not really a wrong way to, working with keeping the flame alive. How has that impacted your work as artists?
Oh, it's made me not stop. Um, it's made me care about more than myself, and that's Chris's fault because I didn't do that very well before. Um, it's given me more integrity and better drive at all of it, and it's made me more adaptable, I guess, because things haven't worked and we've changed them. And if things don't work, we change them again. So I don't know. I've learned a lot.
Yeah. Chris, how has that impacted your work?
Um, so Wendy and I are both somewhat of control freaks. Um, so working somewhat, just a little, but working on keeping the flame alive with her has been huge, has been actually a huge lesson in personal growth. Because it's not just me and what my concept of perfection is anymore. And we see the world similar but differently. And we talk a lot and we do the same with poetry. And it's actually really expanded my horizons, um, because she's helped me see that my narrow vision of what is perfect and right is not the only vision out there. So I think it has made me grow a hell of a lot, not just as a poet, but as a person and a friend. And
Nice.
that's your fault, Wendy.
I'll
Hey,
take that.
listen, I'm not a smart man and I don't give a lot of advice, but one thing I know for a fact is happiness is knowing who to blame. Like that. April 24th, in Seymour, Indiana. Keeping the Flame Alive is hosting I think, a heck of a shindig, really. Chris, tell us about that a little bit.
So, I really got to know Tommy Bays at Insomniacathon last year. We had collaborated on a piece, and ever since, he has been talking about wanting to do an evening of collaborations with different poets. So I asked him, who is your dream team to work with? And what we have is Tommy Bays and Katrina Harper, both members of the Storm Generation band, with Tony Brewer, Walden Quinn Caesar, Wendy Cartwright, myself, you, Dan Denton, Michael Duckwall, Tyler Frederick, Peter Kesmarchek, Wesley Penland, April Ridge, Rita Spalding, Patty Cooper Wells, and U.S. National Lifetime Beat poet uh, Ron Whitehead, poet laureate, sorry, Ron Whitehead, with an open mic. So it is going to be a hell of a night. And I am so excited to hear all the new voices that come to the open mic. I am so excited to hear the marrying of music with the different styles and vibes of all the different poets coming.
Heck yeah. That's at Magic Book.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's at the Magic of Books in Seymour, Indiana from 6 to 8. And the 8's kind of open ended if need be.
I don't want to put you guys on the spot. Yes, I do. Uh,
Uh-oh.
want to. hear you guys read a poem if you guys don't mind. It's National Poetry Month, and if you guys don't mind, I'd like to hear something. I'm sure people watching this are going to want to hear a little bit of your work. Um, I probably should have mentioned that before, but the practice one. And to be fair to my guests, Wendy and Chris, who have been so kind to be willing to do this project with me, a pilot. Like I'm learning what I'm doing as I go along. The first practice session we did, I forgot to do this part. So they have been able to kind of know what was coming until this, and I should have mentioned it, but I'm sorry, sort of.
Sort of.
That's okay.
Would you like to go first, Wendy?
Of course. I always want to go first. Right, Chris? This is called Rainbow. I'm not red or blue. I'm indigo, chartreuse, and vermilion. I care about the state of the union, and I do what I can do. But I am well aware that there is very little that I can do. I enjoy the roof over my head, the ease of private transportation and electricity. Gluten makes me sick, and specialty foods, such as meat, are often above my pay grade. So I eat less because I'm upside down on my auto loan, but I can't let it go back to the bank because I have to get to work at the factory where I make lemonade.
Nice, Wendy.
Thank you.
One more time before I go to Chris. What is your website, Wendy?
My website is anecdotalbanana.com.
And people can find your books there, correct?
They can.
Perfect. Chris, would you mind reading us a poem?
Well, since we keep bringing up the Midwest, this one's called 5 a.m. on a Couch in Rural Indiana. Frigid fingers of wind slip through the cracked window behind my head, tickling the hairs on the back of my neck. I smell spring just around the corner, the way you could smell dinner from your room before Mom called you to eat. I ignore my neck growing colder, lost in the thought that some small part of this morning's wind could have blown through the years, collecting particles and cells from everything it touched. How many trips around the globe could it have made just to come through my window at this place and time, trading molecules of history for a little part of me? I turn to breathe in as much of the air as my lungs can hold and think, I'm inhaling tiny pieces of everyone I've ever loved, bits of people I've never known, and every single event that's happened in between. I'm shivering now, but open the window wider, allowing the world in to chill my coffee and numb my toes. It's 5 a.m., and the last of winter's wind is keeping me company on a couch in rural Indiana, and I am the least alone I will ever be.
Nice. And your website is going to be?
It's going to be magpiepoet.com, but you can actually find both of us at keepingtheflamealive.wordpress.com, along with downloadable PDFs of every issue of Keeping the Flame Alive that we have put out. So if you can't get to a local shop where we kind of litter the premises with them to pick up a free copy, you can still get a free copy.
Excellent. And I look forward to seeing you both very soon, April 24th, if not sooner. And thank you guys for being cool. Just so everybody watching knows, Keeping the Flame Alive has been very good to me. They have really given me a leg up, helping me with build a web store and collaborated on some things. And I know that they have helped so many other artists too. And they're good people. So I think you guys should check out keepingtheflamealive.wordpress.com and send them some good luck and good vibes. And thanks for joining me, guys.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chris.
Keeping the flame alive started as a seed in a maniacal poet's brain. That poet mentioned the idea to another maniacal poet, and here we are. We are a small press who prints submission-based magazines, chapbooks, bound books by writers all over the country. We develop websites, do graphic design, and organize readings and events. Find us on the interwebs.
My next guest in this next segment is Bradley Steinman. Brad is a long-time, retired now UAW auto worker and a long-time drummer, most recently and most famously in the band Lemon Eyes from the Midwest. And Brad's my buddy and pal and next-door neighbor. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, my friend Brad. Hey!
But are you doing it correctly?
Huh?
Are you recording it correctly?
Well, see, here's the problem with this, Brad.
I'm joking.
So it says recording, but that's what it said last time, too, because I'm pretty sure it said, we heard that and everything. Fuck, who knows? Who knows?
I'm just blowing it.
So just so everybody watching this later knows, Brad is the second of the 5 interviews I tried to do for this first show that somehow didn't go right for whatever reason. I do have a 5-year-old computer too. That is a very nice computer, but it's 5 years old, and I'm using a free Zoom that, and I'm not good at technology.
You're right.
So, everybody, Brad's here. Brad's my neighbor and pal and fellow union auto worker. What's going on, Brad?
Oh, right next to nothing.
Yeah, next to me, nothing.
Yeah, right next to nothing. Watching the grass get greener.
It is getting a little. Well, I saw 50s and 60s are in the 10-day forecast again.
Yeah,
but I was a little suspicious today, buddy.
Yeah, it was nipply today.
Brad and I both are fellow RV dwellers.
Full time.
What's it like living in a camper in the winter, Brad, in Ohio?
Challenging. Challenging is about the easiest way to put it. And expensive.
If it's not expensive, it's more challenging.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely more expensive to keep it warm than it is to keep it cool.
Yes. How long have you lived in your camper full time?
I sold the house in Auburn spring of 2020.
You lived in your camper for 5 years now, about full time.
Yeah.
Congratulations, I think.
Yeah.
You're a seasoned veteran.
Well, yeah, I'm yeah. Once you get all the little things figured out, you remember that for the next time something breaks, and it's all just about gaining knowledge. Funny thing we used to have at the campground I used to camp at, we'd come back from emptying our tank, we'd look down at our shoes and say, man, I hope that's mud.
It's just RV life, I think. You're just going to deal with shit a little bit more often. You have to worry about literal shit a little more often than people that live in houses.
Right. Right.
So Brad, Brad's been a long-time drummer. He's had some health issues, and he's had to kind of give that up. But he's played in bands and all around the Midwestern area. Brad, when did you start playing drums?
Oh, 6th grade band. I signed up for drums and was lucky enough to have a mom and stepdad who would put up with it. Let me jump off script a little bit. My youngest daughter took violin lessons for a while. And after about the 5th time of me telling her that she needed to go practice her violin, I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. because nobody had to tell me to practice. You know, I did it because I enjoyed playing. You know, my mom would come back into that bedroom and say, "Can you please be done for today? You know, your stepdad's home from the factory and he just wants to chill out." And so I was the kid that, yeah, mom would say, "Stop practicing," instead of, "You need to practice."
Yeah.
Well,
What kind of work did your dad do, Brad?
my stepdad worked at the same UAW factory I did. Um, and he would sell life insurance in the evenings.
All right. So you started playing drums in sixth grade band. And I know you got to play in like rock bands later.
Yeah. No, we weren't anything big. Um, we played in a few clubs in the Fort Wayne area. Um, Recorded a CD down in Fort Wayne. I would say biggest our biggest achievement was we got to open up for the Guess Who during the Three Rivers Festival in Fort Wayne, and that was that was neat. You
Yeah.
know, standing backstage with the backstage pass hanging around your neck, you know, and at that time, the bass player and the drummer were the only two original members. But man, there was just something about standing out behind that tent talking to those guys that, man, it was just cool
Yeah, man.
to have grown up listening, you know, hearing their music on my radio and standing there having a smoke break with them. It was just really cool.
Uh, what was the name of your band?
It's called Lemon Eyes.
So like you had told me before, like so you played drums growing up, and you didn't really like even join the band until you were like maybe in your mid-20s or older.
Yeah, I was actually married to my second wife with kids when things kind of came together, as far as, you know, hey, getting a call from a friend that I knew in high school who's a bass player. You know, he called and said, "Hey, these guys are wanting to jam. You want to bring some drums over and hang out with them?" And man, from there it led to a different band, and then back with this dude, and then getting into Lemon Eyes, and it kind of took off from there.
Yeah. When you were a teenager, like in band and stuff in school, did you ever think about playing in a band or just love drumming?
Oh, sure, I would have loved to have been in a band, but I don't know. In my little town, you know, BF, Indiana, there just wasn't a lot of good guitar players and bass players and lead singers.
Yeah.
You know, so it just, after I graduated, I had my drums. I always had them set up in the house wherever I was living, and would just, walking through that room, man, I'd just sit down and mess around for a while, put on some headphones, play along with whatever happened to be on the radio. And if you do something long enough, you can only get better at it. And that's really how I learned to play drums.
Yeah. Uh, so when you graduated high school, you got a job in the factory, a local factory.
Yeah, yeah. Within a month of graduating high school, within
Uh,
a month, I got hired into a local factory right there in Auburn.
and a union factory, correct?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
how was that in life? You know, you and I. So Brad and I are UAW, are both of us former, union auto workers. And one of the things that he and I have chatted about quite frequently is about like the difference between having a union job or having a factory job that's not union. You know. So how was that like working in a union factory, Brad?
Um, amazing, amazing. The family that you end up, you know, the guys you work with every day become family. I mean, you're with them as much as you're with your own family.
Sometimes more if the hours are good.
If the hours are good, that's right. And I was and am still benefiting so much from the benefits that factory allowed me to have.
Yeah,
Uh, from when I became disabled, I had company provided lawyers to help me sign up for disability and deal with that whole process. Um, the health insurance, the disability insurance, I paid extra out of my check to have a little more of that protection. And unfortunately, I ended up having to cash in.
yeah. She raised a family,
Yeah.
kids, and took them camping and lived a pretty good life.
Oh,
In
yeah.
a job.
Yeah. They didn't want for anything. We
Yeah,
had all of them were in marching band and all that in school, and that job paid for all those fees and roof over their heads,
yeah,
their health care,
yep,
and really, really amazing what the right job can do for a person to give them such a different level of life, enjoyable life.
yeah. Yeah. It's. That's what I try to tell people. It's not that it is. I support unions strongly because I know firsthand. I've worked in a lot of places that weren't. You know what I'm saying? And I
Right.
know the difference in the benefits even. And we don't. When you're 25 years old, I didn't think about it as much when I was in my 20s because you don't go to the doctor that much. You know what I'm saying? And then
Right.
all of a sudden, I got kids, and that insurance, how much it costs to go to the doctor is really important now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those are the things that I kind of learned the hard way. But yeah, man, it was getting a union job absolutely changed my whole family's life. You know, uh, you ended up at that Union Auto factory working in maintenance, correct?
Yeah. I actually hired in as vacation replacement. At my orientation, the facilities manager himself stood up in front of us and said, "There is no chance whatsoever that you guys will be here after 3 months." I made it 27 years in that factory.
Damn.
27 years before my back finally got bad enough that I couldn't stand to be on my feet anymore.
Yeah. Uh, you still have your coffee cup next to you?
No, it's over on the counter. Yeah,
Ah,
I've got a coffee mug that's been in my hand almost that same amount of time.
yeah, he's
And
got like a 30-year-old coffee. It's just a simple mug too with the handle on it.
yep,
Yeah.
little thermos.
But I always felt like that, out of all the jobs in the world where a cup of coffee is important in the morning, it seems like a factory worker is pretty essential.
Yeah, well, back in maintenance, I did a lot of my maintenance time on third shift, and we drank coffee. I mean, pot after pot after pot. And if we weren't making coffee back in the shop, we, and I don't remember how it started, but it turned into, we called it dead guy coffee. One of us of our little core group back there in maintenance would get on the PA and page anybody as long as they were dead to the maintenance office. So you'd be out doing, fixing a machine, whatever you were doing, and you'd hear across the PA, Jimi Hendrix to the maintenance office, Jimi Hendrix to the maintenance office. And you knew that meant put your stuff down, go back to the maintenance office. We're going to flip quarters, and the loser has to buy everybody coffee. And every night it would be somebody else. George Washington to the maintenance office. Just whoever we could think of at the time. Actually, the guy that started it ended up, he dug around on the internet, and there was a website called who's alive and who's dead.com. And we would start using that to figure out who we were going to call for dead guy coffee that night.
Yeah. Man, that's gold. Yeah. That's how important coffee is to a factory worker right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, what so one of the things that Brad and I've always talked about is, spending so much time next to that guy you work with. And like you said, like when the hours are good, it's almost like you see those people more than you see your kids and your family sometimes. When you leave that, you always see those guys at McDonald's, like every morning at 7 a.m. have a coffee and a newspaper. And when I see that, I always just automatically assume those are some old blue collar guys, probably that, you got up every morning of your life 5-6 days a week and got your lunch bucket and you went to work and hung out with those guys. And then after 30 years or 27 or 40 or however long, that stops, just completely stops. And it's always like, I feel like some people don't do very well with that,
Yeah, it's like, to an extreme amount more, but it's like graduating high school.
Yeah.
All your friends that you've known are gone. My stepdad, to this day, once a week, meets with his buddies from that factory.
Yeah, see?
For breakfast.
It's amazing to me, and I understand it completely. I mean, I do. I'm still, I've been out of the Jeep plant for almost 2 years now, and I still, probably half of my friend circle that I stay in contact with are my Jeep buddies. My closest friends, But like you said, though, it's like I think about it, and some of these people, I'm going to write a book about it eventually. One of these days, I got to sit down and get it right. I've got to, whatever. But you work next to these guys every day. You hear about their kids. You hear about their home repairs every day. You'd be at work and your buddy, that's what you did. You came to work and be like, oh man, my hot water tank went out. All of a sudden, you got 4 guys telling you, well, you got to do this. You got to, you know what I mean? And it's like it is like their family.
Oh yeah.
So it's more than just like a guy you work with.
Yeah, way more.
Yeah, and you do that for years and years. So, but anyway, when we had done our practice run, Brad, I had circled back to the RV life, but we started out with that. But you had told me you were going to like talk about drums and music one more time. And that's the note I wrote down, was to see if you remembered why the last time there was one more thing you wanted to add about music and drums, or you were going to bring it back around full circle, you said, from work and music. And I don't know what it was because we ran out of time that time. And then I fucked it up anyway, or the computer did, whoever. Let's blame the computer.
I don't remember now specifically what that was. And even worse than not remembering is I made a list of things about playing in bands and stuff to talk about. And now I can't even remember anything that I put on that list.
That's all right, because I'm going to ask you one more question.
Oh, wait.
Perfect.
Here is one kind of funny story. We ended up playing a battle of the bands at the IPFW campus in Fort Wayne. And it was sponsored by 98.9 The Bear, radio station out of Fort Wayne. And it was set up, there was 2 stages. While one band was performing on one stage, the other band was, tearing down their stuff, and the next band was setting up. And when this band got done, they would tear down, and the second stage would play. So we got our stuff set up on stage, and sitting on the back of the stage. And at the time, I always wore a baseball hat. And we're sitting on that back of that stage riser, waiting for our turn to play. And I look over, and one of the DJs from 98.9 The Bear walks over and starts chatting with us. And I'm thinking, this is pretty cool, That's their main DJ. And he's just chatting with us. He's standing there, and I'm sitting on that drum riser, and I said something, and he looked down at me, and he kind of nodded. He did a double take, and he went back to talking to whoever was talking to, and he took his hand, and he put it right on my forehead. And I'm sitting there thinking, what is going on? And then it dawned on me, I'm wearing a hat with a logo for a competing radio station. And that's all he said about it. He didn't say anything. He just covered up that logo. And as soon as his hand dropped, I flipped that hat around backwards. We won second place at that Battle of the Bands. And it was judged by crowd noise. We won second place. And then out of that, we ended up getting a spot. They would do a weekly show called Homegrown, where they would have local bands come in and sit in the studio and talk to them, and they'd play, that band's original music and stuff. And because of taking second place in that Battle of the Bands, we got to sit and do that for an hour with that dude. And that's always just a fun story. I'll never forget that. Just that complete shock, not necessarily on my face, but ripping through my brain. I'm wearing a hat that says Rock 104.
But you got to be on the radio, though.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So just for that little band that never really amounted to much, it seems like you guys did some pretty cool stuff, Brad.
Oh, yeah. We did.
I just like to point out sometimes with my friends, especially the people I care about, when they downplay it, that they've done some pretty cool things. You have too.
Well,
let me ask you one final. I got 2 final quick questions. Okay.
All right.
Your favorite band and why?
Rush, because I'm a drummer, and Neil Peart he's not necessarily the reason I started playing, but he's the reason I wanted to be a better player.
Is he your favorite drummer?
Yeah.
See, this is how great of a podcast guest you are, Brad. I had 2 questions: favorite band and favorite drummer, and you answered them both before I got to the second one. That's how good of a guest you are. Jesus, man, it couldn't have been more of a home run. I hope I get it right this time. Like, this is a home run as it gets,
Well, when I first started learning how to play, I listened to ZZ Top. They had an album out called Eliminator. It songs like Sharp Dressed Man and Give Me All Your Lovin'. And that's good, solid drumming, but it's not difficult drumming. It's difficult to keep that groove, and headphones on, playing that cassette over and over and over is how I really learned how to play.
Is ZZ Top who inspired your beard?
No, the beard just happened to come later.
What advice do you have for men that want to grow a luxurious beard like yours, Brad?
do what you can to just stop shaving your face. Just don't shave your face anymore. And wait.
And wait, be patient. Hey, Brad, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, not a problem.
All right, talk to you soon.
Yeah, see ya.
It looks like now we have a light tube skateboard. I mean, hell, we did a show at a skate park. Here we go. And here I am.
What's Will
doing everything I can, believing that I am a Superman.
Taking a lot of risk to be able to use that skateboard in a gnarly grinder of a move.
That was an ollie?
It was an ollie.
And my next segment, Kill the Thing You Love. This is going to be a monthly segment with me and my friend Ted Jackins. Ted Jackins is an author, poet, artist, musician, songwriter, overall good human. You can find their work on Substack. Their blog is called Kill the Thing You Love. And on Bandcamp, where you can find their music at Kill the Thing You Love. Ted and I are going to kick it once a month and talk about music and art. And I hope you dig. Hey, Ted, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. Very excited to do this.
Yeah. When I wanted to start this little weird project we're doing here, one of the first humans that I thought of like working with was you. First of all, I know you have a little free time. And I know you're a brilliant artist, and I was like, and like a wonderful, good human that I wanted to like spend a little time with virtually, you know?
Sure. Always happy to talk shop with somebody who's been there, you know?
Yeah. Ted, do me a favor.
Mhm.
On this pilot episode, tell us about some of your art and your creativity. I know you do music, you paint, you draw, you write brilliant poetry, but tell us some about your life as an artist.
Well, I made a record a couple of years ago that I feel like uh, was named aptly because it's kind of been my motto with everything that I do. Is that it's called what it is to be a person, and that's pretty much my motto. Like, and I feel like my philosophy on art and what most art or really like the kind of art that really hits you in the chest is essentially saying the same thing. This is what it's like to be a person. This is what scares me. This is what makes me happy. This is what makes me sad. These are what make me angry. I mean, um, just trying to put that across, whether it's with a paintbrush or a camera, guitar, or poetry. It's just, it all comes from the same place. It's just this. I tell people it's kind of like a rat's nest in here. There's just, like that king rat situation with like all the tails tied together. It's just this festering, and it has to come out somewhere. And every other way that I ever tried to let it out, usually got me put in an institution or something like that. So I had to find something healthy. And thankfully, art has just always been this therapy for me. So, yeah, it's just, this is what it's like to be a person in 2025, is essentially where it comes from.
Yeah. What creative projects are you been working on lately? Anything?
Well, I am waiting to hear back from a publisher for next chapbook, which is about 40 to 42 pages. Um, uh, it's called "But Did You Die," which is another kind of motto that I've had. Is as you know, as a lot of people know, I mean, me and my wife both have been kind of through the ringer these past couple of years. So But Did You Die became like this little thing that I lived by. It's like, yeah, that was really bad, but I'm still here somehow. And uh, just waiting to hear on that. That's it's a really dark book. A lot of dealing with mortality, which I think everybody in their 40s starts to really think about that shit. I mean, in the case of losing Jeff Taylor and Brian and a lot of other people these past few years, I mean, you really
Yeah.
start to consider this thing. So there's a lot of stuff about that, and just I went through a little bit of being displaced, living in a hotel room, and just stuff dealing with that. And I finally felt comfortable to write about my gender identity as well. So there's all those things kind of going on. Musically, I just put out an instrumental record. Was dance songs of the resistance, and it's just I would get high and record myself just jamming on guitar, and it was basically my mission statement of opposing fascism, uh, in every way, and the only way I really know how to do that is through art. So
What it's called? Dance Songs for the Revolution.
dance songs of the resistance.
Dance Songs of the Resistance. Where can people find that to listen?
That is on my Bandcamp. I can send you the link so you'll have it. But that is what is it? Conversations with the Ghost at or dot bandcamp.com. But I'll send that to you just so you know.
Now we know a little bit about Ted. Ted is going to be a regular segment. We haven't exactly decided what to call it. Maybe What's Up with Ted or What Up Ted. I don't know. But Ted's going to be a weekly guest or weekly co-host on this segment, and we're going to talk about music and art and probably who knows what else. Uh, I say that because I want to ask you, Ted. What are you? You're wearing a drive-by truckers shirt, first of all.
Oh
Shouts
yeah.
out to drive-by truckers. But what have you been listening to lately?
Oh well. I'm glad you asked. I actually set aside a couple of CDs so I would remember what to talk about. Um, as far as like stuff that I just have downloaded, I really like the Marshall Allen record from Sun Ra Orchestra. It's just you know uh, it's something as simple as him doing like soloing over the simple blues kind of refrain is just uh, feels he somehow makes it sound revolutionary, and just I love that record. And uh, let's see, I've also been kind of going back down a rabbit hole because I'm slowly but surely trying to gather material for this book I want to write about North Carolina punk rock music.
Hmm.
Um, I grew up a punk kid in North Carolina, going to these shows, and one of the bands that really spoke to me, I'll put that up there, is Piss Shit Fuck. Very delightful name, but this band changed my life, man. When I was like 15, playing in my first bands and stuff, the head guy from PSF, Mike Ray, kind of took a liking to me as he tended to do with some of the younger punk kids. He would give you studio time and give you shows and stuff like that. But this is like crazy, like black metal influenced hardcore punk rock music with like ska influences and noise. And I think he recorded this in like his living room or something like that. It's really political, really angry, and hell, who doesn't need that right now? And then moving right along, there's also this band Hellraiser. This Life After Death. They're like a one man black metal band. I'm not sure where they're from, but man, this is killer record. I got it off Bandcamp as well, and that was from a record label called Reaper Metal Productions. I think it was Reaper Metal Production, and came out in 2020. But it's just like blistering, straight ahead, extreme metal music. It's gonna sound really good at a skate park. Um, and then we got a twofer from Bob Pollard. He's an Ohio boy uh, from Dayton. And it's just, I mean, I never get tired of whether he's in Guided by Voices or solo or any one of his numerous projects. It's just, there's something about good guitar driven power pop music that just scratches an itch in my brain. So those are kind of the main things. But I mean, I'm always going through phases with music where I'll only listen to hip hop, I'll only listen to jazz, I'll only be really yeah. I started doing this thing within the last 2 years where I started doing deep dives with bands where I would just listen to everything in order. And I did that with like The Cure. I did that with Wilco. I did that with the Truckers. And just I would pick an artist and just kind of work my way through their catalog and really learned a lot, found a lot of new favorites. So it's just always shifting, and I'm always discovering new stuff. It's just, it's an addiction in its own way.
Yeah, I'm always looking for something new. I do a lot of deep dives too, and I get fascinated. And mine are so varied. Like I did a Led Zeppelin one recently. What a fascinating rabbit hole to get stuck in. My most recent one kind of connected me and Ted to this project. We I've been fascinated with Sun Ra lately, man. Sun Ra is there may never be another artist quite like Sun Ra.
There really isn't. I mean, and you look at like the people he's influenced. I mean, the jazz guys, the other jazz guys, they didn't get it, but like the punks and then like Sonic Youth took a big influence, which that's kind of how I found him, was Sonic Youth and Yo La Tengo, both, talked him up and did shows with them while he was still here. And, you just look at the people he's influenced from outside of jazz and just, I mean, there was a visual thing, like the Afrofuturism kind of thing, and like a philosophy. I mean, there's so much to dig into there.
Yeah, I somebody was asking me about him, and I was like, the best way I can describe him is an experimental jazz person that somehow rose above jazz and truly might have been a person that wasn't human. Like, talking about space and all this. Like, he might not have been human. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there were artists like that, and it's usually artists, but there's just well, I mean, I kind of look at maybe Einstein even being there's kinds of people that's like they're operating on a completely different plane from other people, like just the way they think.
Yeah.
And Ra was definitely one of those. I feel like Dylan in his way is kind of like that Coltrane for sure.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about Coltrane, but Coltrane's my guy, man. Yeah.
Oh, I totally get it. Hey, man, I've got a poster like in my living room, or not my living room, but my bedroom above my record player. That's like from 1966, I think, performance. Coltrane's he's definitely up there. I mean, he's from High Point, North Carolina originally, and I've drove past his house and seen like his piano at the museum, and there's a statue of him
Man.
Downtown High Point. Yeah, um, a lot of jazz guys from North Carolina. I mean, Thelonious Monk's from Rocky Mount. I used to live like 45 minutes from there. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's at least one great last question here. We've got just a few minutes left. If you had to choose one album that you've listened to probably the most, what would that album be?
That's a loaded question. Well, I mean, I guess it could be kind of basic. Nirvana's In Utero. That was the album that made me feel like I've got to get a guitar. Like I just remember, I came into Nirvana like everybody else around Nevermind in there, but In Utero was the one that I went out and bought shortly before Kurt died, and it just, yeah, I keep coming back to that one. That one's a palate cleanser album for me because it just sort of reminds me, like, oh yeah, that's why I do this.
My second favorite, probably most listened to album of all time, is a Nirvana album. It's that MTV Unplugged.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That live, that album is one of, I think, my all-time favorite live album.
It's yeah. It's definitely up there for me as well. I mean, as far as Unplugged goes, it's that one and the Alice in Chains Unplugged are kind of tied for me. I listened to both of those in my mom's car,
Yeah.
but to the point where even my mom was like, talking about Alice in Chains, she's like, I really love the way that their voices blend together. And I was like, see, that's the power. My mom, who didn't like most of the things or didn't understand most of the things I was into, she could hear, that. But yeah, both of those Unplugs are up there.
All right, man. Thanks for joining me, Ted. I look
Mhm.
forward to hanging out with you again soon, and see you next month.
All right, sure.
The bums raise their heads from their knees and smile, stagger out into traffic with arms open wide, proclaiming wonder and saluting beauty when Dennis Johnson's Cadillac drives by. Romanticized in lipstick red reflections, sex waxes over the fenders like the glossiest Valentine. Back in 74,
this blonde outside Alpine
rides me all the way to Phoenix.
All the way to Phoenix.
In a car
just like that.
Heroic figures you can't ignore. 18.5 feet of 73 Eldorado. 5,000 pounds, 501 cubic inches of mighty V8. Power steering, power brakes, power windows, power ragtop, power on the cusp of emissions laws and gas crises. Why not buy a goddamn big car? Goddamn big American car. Enter the darkness that surrounds us with firm purchase. The few who I listen to urge me on with drive. Keep the top folded back, it finds the highway luminous.
In a car just like that.
My next two guests on what I hope will be a regular monthly segment that I'll call the Writer's Circle probably. This segment features two incredible writers that have recently been published from Roadside Press. Lori Jakiela is the author of 7 books. Most recently, a memoir, They Write Your Name on a Grain of Rice, on cancer, love, and living, even so, from Atticus Books. Another memoir, Belief is Its Own Kind of Truth, Maybe, from Autumn House Press, received the Sarowan Prize for International Literature from Stanford University. Lori's essay collection, Portrait of the Artist as a Bingo Worker, on Work and the Writing Life, from Bottom Dog Press, has been adopted as a common text at Westmoreland Community College for the past 2 years. Many of the essays in Allskate, True Stories from Middle Life, have been published in places like Pittsburgh Magazine, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, the Washington Post, Volume 1, Brooklyn, Journal of the Plague Years, Pulse, and more. Her other work has appeared in the New York Times Modern Love column, the Chicago Tribune, Brevity Creative Nonfiction, Full Grown People, The Rumpus, and more. Her author website is www.lorijakiela.net. That's L-O-R-I, Lori, Jakiela, Jakiela.net. Her book, Allskate, True Stories from the Middle Life, is available from Roadside Press. Dave Newman is the author of 9 books, including the story collection She Throws Herself Forward to Stop the Fall from Roadside Press 2024, and How to Live Life Like Lipo in Pittsburgh, Essays from a Writing Life, J. New Books 2024. His collection, The Slaughterhouse Poems, White Gorilla Press 2013, was named one of the best books of the year by Elle Magazine. He was a finalist for the Rattle Poetry Prize and won the Reader's Choice Award in 2024. His poems, essays, and stories have appeared in magazines and journals around the world, including Ambit in the United Kingdom, Tears in the Fence in the United Kingdom, Gulfstream, Belt, and the legendary Nerve Cowboy. He appeared in the PBS documentary narrated by Rick Sevick about Pittsburgh writers. Winner of numerous awards, including the Andre Dubus Novella Prize, he lives in Trafford, Pennsylvania, the last town in the Electric Valley, with his wife, the writer Lori Jakiela. After a decade of working in medical research, he currently teaches in the Creative and Professional Writing Program at the University of Pittsburgh-Greensburg, his alma mater. She Throws Herself Forward to Stop the Fall, Dave's new poetry collection, is available from Roadside Press. Please welcome my esteemed guests. Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Newman and Jakiela, all the way from Trafford, Pennsylvania. Some longtime writers, very accomplished writers, that I have actually looked up to over the last couple of years. And thanks for joining me, guys.
Thanks for having
us.
I guess I'll just ask a couple questions to start. Jakiela, ladies first. Recently had a book, Allskate, True Stories from Midlife. See, I fucked up already. Allskate, True Stories from Middle Life. That just recently dropped, I think, right?
Yep. Yes. This
on Roadside,
a couple days ago. Yeah.
A couple days ago?
Yeah.
Have you had cake yet?
No cake, but I did have candy cigarettes.
That's probably...
Which, I mean, that's... when else can you whip out the candy cigarettes but for a new book, right? That's important.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to ask kind of both of you, actually. So, Lori, is this your 8th book?
This is, yeah.
Compared to like your first and second book release, how does it feel to have your 8th book?
It's always lovely. And there's always that feeling like right before it, you're worried nobody's going to come, everybody's going to hate it. So that never really goes away. But this book release was in a small space. It's a bookstore that was owned by a former student of mine. And so it really just felt really homey and nice and very much middle life, right? Like this is, it just felt warm and good. And so it was not so much like the giant crowd that you want or that sort of thing. It was like just being in a warm space with good people, and having some candy cigarettes together, which is,
Nice.
Smoke them if you got them, and we did.
That's it. I didn't even know they make candy cigarettes still.
Yeah. Oh.
just going back down the retro lane for childhood, I found Jolt Cola.
Oh yeah.
You can order that on the internet still. So we ordered some when I was at the factory, and we all drank it one day at lunch. Just for old time's sake.
Does
Nice.
it give the Red Bull vibes? Like, is it hold up to that?
I can't believe it's terrible. It's
Yeah,
disgusting.
it's like flat. I remember it not having many bubbles.
It's definitely got a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
Something I didn't care about until I got a little older.
Right.
Uh, and so I'm here with Jakiela and Newman. Newman, they're actually a married couple.
Yep.
Both of them, Jakiela just had her 8th book released. Newman is about to release his 10th book.
Yeah.
'Cause your bios say 7 books and yours says 9 books, but then the new book's at the end. So I was
Yeah.
like, I think this will be, yeah. So
Just
you have,
literary math.
Newman has 2 books on Roadside. Your last one was She Throws Herself Forward to Stop the Fall.
Yep.
And then he has a new book of poetry releasing soon.
Yep. Some June.
In June?
Yep.
Better than the best American poetry.
Yes. Fucking with the better than the best American poetry.
10 books.
10 books.
How does it feel for you when you release a book now? Then
I still get excited, and it's weird. I get really excited, even though I think like the general public does doesn't care about literature in general, but especially poetry. But it excites me to get a book of poems into the world still. I just love it, and I love going out and reading it. And if you publish a novel, that's awesome. But when you read it, you got to make sure the audience understands what part you're reading from, and you got to excerpt it. And poems, you just get up and you can change whatever you're doing in the middle of the reading, and so it's a lot of fun.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's having written novels and poetry. It's definitely a different
vibe. Yeah.
Poetry's more my jam, but you got to read from the novels too. So you have a book coming in June. Jakiela has one that just released. Let me start with Jakiela. Let me start with Newman on this one. How long ago did you start writing?
So I was one of those, like I said, I grew up in an evangelical Christian household. We were all born agains. And so reading was really kind of discouraged. And I read 2 books till I got out of high school. I read The Outsiders in 5th grade, and my mom kind of like scoffed at it because it wasn't the Bible, which was the only book we had in the house. And then I read Jim Morrison's the biography of Jim Morrison, No One Here Gets Out Alive, in 6th grade, and didn't read again until college and stuff. But I always like wrote poems, but they were just influenced by like song lyrics and whatever was popular at the time. And so it didn't really occur to me until much later someone gave me a book of poems. I'm like, oh, none of this matters if I'm not reading. So that was, so the writing was always there, but it really changed once I started reading when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah. When did your first book get published?
I think I was 40. So I think I published like my first poem when I was 22 and my first book not till I was 40. So there was like a big gap in time where I was just like, it's right around the corner, right around the year, right around the decade, just kept hoping, but it finally happened.
Nice. Jakiela, when did you start writing?
As far back as I can remember, I always, played with words. I remember being absolutely furious my first day of kindergarten and coming home and just being disgusted that they didn't teach me how to read for myself, because I would always have to beg my parents or my grandmother to read, and they would get tired, and my grandmother would say, I don't have my glasses. And so I started thinking, like, if you had glasses, they were magic, and then you could read if you had glasses. But I just wanted to learn how to read, and I wanted to learn how, to put words down, like as far back as I can remember. It's also like one of the only things I could do. I was a pretty sickly child, not athletic. Books, magazines, Mad Magazine, those kinds of things were, my early inspirations. And my parents were really working class. We didn't have a lot of books in the house, but I do remember this like incredible act of love that my father did. An encyclopedia salesman came to the door one day, and my dad bought a whole set of the Wonderland of Knowledge encyclopedias, and he built a bookcase and covered them in glass, and it was precious. And I read my way through those, and I read the dictionary. And so, I really, it just always was there. And I don't know what that is. I always joke, our son, when he was 6 months old, he started speaking like sentences at 6 months. And I thought, oh, language gives us power when we feel powerless, right? As kids, and maybe something to that. had some reason why I was really determined. But yeah. But I got glasses since then, and they really don't change your reading life at all. So
Uh, so did you like, unlike Newman, did you like want to be a writer from a young age? Like, did you kind of?
yeah, yeah. I mean, but I grew up, in a really working class, like blue collar environment. So I told people I would be a journalist, which is what I went to undergrad for, and I was a journalist, still am, here and there. But I told them that because people could understand that that was a job because they knew Barbara Walters, and so they're like, "Okay, well, you can do that. That's a real job," as opposed to say, what I eventually ended up doing is going to grad school for poetry. Thank God I didn't have to pay for it because they would have been like, "What are you doing?" But there was no other real way to talk about wanting to be a writer than to say it was tangible work that could be respected in the world somehow. I mean, we could talk about how journalists are treated now, but back then, it was a real thing. So, yeah, they supported that, but the rest of it they thought was a little nuts. I know you said you were adopted, and I was too, and so my family always thought I was a little strange because of that. Like they didn't know where I came from, so but they did tolerate it pretty well.
Uh, yeah, I tell people I love to like, I've worked in blue collar environments my whole life,
Mhm.
and you tell people they're like, "What do you do?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm a poet," and they're
Oh,
like, "That's a thing." But
yeah.
like when I travel to like Albuquerque or like Los Angeles, and you meet people in these like where there's real artists living, and they're like, "What do you do?" And you're like, "You're a poet." They're like, "Oh, far out, man." It's like it's a whole different. Like I didn't even know that could be a thing. Like nobody told me. uh, did you have any like influential books as a child? I know Newman mentioned The Outsiders, which was a childhood favorite of mine, by the way.
Yeah.
Did you have any books as a child that you really enjoyed, or?
Oh, I enjoyed The Outsiders, all the usual things, but my absolute favorite and highly inappropriate childhood reading memory is I'm old enough. We used to have these barrels of books at a place called GC Murphy, and they would tear the covers off, so you get like five for $1. You just reach in and grab whatever you want. And I reached in and I grabbed 5 books and I brought them home, and one was by Judy Blume, who is a wonderful children's writer. But I happened to snag a copy of Wifey, which is not a children's book. And I loved that I got a hold of this thing. And I always sort of was drawn to like the darker kids' books too, like the Flowers in the Attic series, things like that. But this was a whole new world. And I knew enough. That I should hide it under my bed, which I did. But I also knew that my parents, even though they didn't read a lot, they probably knew who Judy Blume was, Amelia Bedelia. So I thought I'm still pretty cool, even if they find this, it's going to be a keeper. But yeah, I think it really influenced me as a writer to know things that I shouldn't know about the world before I should know them. Yeah.
That was luckily like like I said, I told you before we started recording, I had kind of my escape as a child at the library.
Yeah.
Like at a very young age, I discovered that the library has some wild books. And like unsupervised in the library was pretty wild growing up.
Did your
Yes.
mom never peek in, or mom or dad never peeked in to see what you were reading?
No, so my mom actually spent most of my childhood like at a state psych ward,
Okay.
and my dad like actually was illiterate, so he couldn't read. And
Right.
so I basically, they tried, but I had like free run.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You're like, it's a Christian novel.
yeah, and so I remember in high school, my mom found like some pretty like I had some like porn magazines they found,
Right.
but there was also like I think I had a Dennis Rodman autobiography. We played for the Bulls, and I grew up in Illinois. Of
Right.
course, I read, but I remember she was like, "Oh," and it was the one. It was the one where he was on the cover in a woman's dress of all things. And this is evangelical Christianity. So not only did I get caught with porn, I also got caught with the drag queen. Like, to a lot of things.
All the good stuff. Like,
And they burned my books in the magazines too.
Oh,
oh,
They literally took them out in the back and had a bonfire and like.
oh no.
But
like back then, you could have sold at least the porno mags for like $12 to a buddy.
oh yeah, yeah, different world.
Those were a hot commodity.
Yeah, those are the things I hid under my mattress, which wasn't a smart place because they always found it.
I
Yeah,
know.
totally.
Why would we hide things under the mattress? Everyone knows that's where you look.
And it's like every kid, like, trust me, as a parent, it's like generation to generation. We never, as humans, we have not evolved to learn this because my kids have got it's their place too. I bet it's something like with our evolution of like nesting or something is where we
Oh,
sleep.
No one will find it here.
Uh, Getting back on track, Jakiela, right? I'm saying
Yes.
that right?
Yep.
When did your first book get published?
2006.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you writing like you were a journalist, so were you writing columns and stuff before that, and then
Yeah, I was. I mean, so I took a really weird route. So I went to school for poetry. I was writing poetry. Then I went and joined the airlines for 7 years and didn't really write anything other than notes on the back of bar napkins. And my poems seemed broken. They were really long lines. And then I started realizing I was writing essays, but I was writing essays that were nonfiction, so I could publish them in newspapers and magazines, things like that. Um, and then I got a job teaching, which I shouldn't have gotten because I was completely unqualified, but whatever. And they asked me, what are you going to do for tenure? You have to write a book. And I said, I'm going to write a memoir. And I had no idea what I was saying at all. And Newman worked at a bookstore at that time, and he just started feeding me books of memoir. And I was like, I stuck myself into this hole. I've got to figure it out. And so that's really how it happened. So they were essays that had morphed from poems that became a memoir because I had to make a book. Yeah, so it was kind of a roundabout way of doing it. But then I realized that was the form that I really love um, a
your
lot.
first book was a memoir?
It was, yeah.
Wow, that seems intimidating.
Yeah, it's called Miss New York Has Everything, which is a title that I've grown to regret. Um, but yeah, it's a memoir, but mostly a memoir and connected essays, that kind of thing.
She has a
Okay.
great essay about giving a reading at a Sam's Club, and they got confused and was saying instead of Miss New York, they just put Miss America for her, and like dudes were coming coming to see her to meet Miss America instead of to buy her book.
Yeah, it was on a huge used car lot sign, my name. Come meet me, Miss America. Yeah, it
Wow.
didn't go well, but it made for good writing.
Yeah. So you
Humiliation works.
but do you guys both do like are like regular readings now, or is it just something you do when books come out, or
I do pretty regular readings. Yeah. Um, summer conferences, things like that.
yeah?
Newman
Uh,
tries to get out of them because he's more modest, but
I'm not modest. I'm shy. I'm not a great.
uh, well, let me start this question with you because that was going to lead to this next question. Jakiela, what is your writing process like? So as an example, when I asked for that, like Stephen King teaches, like sit down in the morning and sit 4 to 6 hours and don't move till you write.
oh dear
That
God.
would never work for me. Like,
No,
what do
no.
you write?
Yeah, I mean, I tell my students to do all the things that I don't do, might be one of them to have a regular writing practice. But I mean, mostly, I mean, because Newman and I have been together 25 years, we have 2 kids. We've developed a strange process that people might think is strange anyway. We sit down together at a table, any chance we get, which is usually now weekends, and we work. And we work together, usually like side by side or cross, um, and try to shut the world out as much as we can. But, like if you have kids and life and work and, parents you're caring for and laundry and, the idea of sitting down with for 4 straight hours every day and just, blocking out that time is impossible. To me, it's like you do it when you can do it, when you can do it. And, luckily for me, I just feel really supported when I sit down too, that, you know, because if you're married to someone who doesn't understand that, they're gonna be like, what are you doing? Like, it's Friday night, it's Saturday night. Why are you sitting with your head in the computer and not talking to anyone? But yeah, so
Yeah.
Newman can speak more to that too.
Oh, that was going to be my.
Yeah.
I was going to end before I asked you guys to read what it was like as a writer couple, but you kind of answered that. Newman, your writing process?
So like, I used to actually have a pretty good routine. I worked at the VA for like a decade, and it's only like 15 miles from our house, but it's like we have a tunnel going into Pittsburgh that shuts everything down. So I got in the habit of getting up at 4 in the morning to beat traffic, and then I would drive to the VA and I would write at my desk for an hour and a half before anyone else arrived at the hospital. I worked in the research center, which is kind of right behind the hospital. So I had this just great routine and privacy. There was nobody in the building. I could hear the elevator open when people started to come in. I knew it was time to close my documents and get the work. But so that was really great. And then with that, we've always worked on Saturday nights together. I think we just decided when the kids were young that we would play with them and play Jenga or something like that, and then send them on their own way. And we'd go back and try to get some writing done. And we've kind of stuck with that for years.
Nice. You both have mentioned, and this is the blue collar guy in me has loved this. But you mentioned yesterday when we met somewhere else, Newman, that you started out as an over the road truck driver.
Yeah. So
And,
I like. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I just so like I finished my undergraduate degree. I got a job as a janitor. I was like, there's Western Pennsylvania at the time was just totally dead. There was a big factory here, Volkswagen, it closed, and everything was just kind of all the steel mills were gone. And so I'm like, I'll go back to school. And everyone's like, you can be a college professor. So I got an MFA. It didn't go very well. But Jakiela's like, she wouldn't have paid for it. I paid for it with student loans, like just totally dumbass stuff. Didn't have a good experience there, and got a job as an over the road trucker when I was done with it. So none of my education has done any until recently done any good for like getting a job or anything. I was always like the working class guy who's just like education's the way out of this, and then you go to do it, and everyone's like, "You're working class, get out of here." We don't need any more of you in this space.
Yeah. And then you mentioned working for an airline.
Yeah.
You guys both have like that blue collar kind of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've had so many jobs, it's hard to count, but a lot of them waiting tables, which is, kind of what I did for the airlines too, except when things went wrong. Mostly it's just taking care of people, but yeah, and I still work as a caterer, and I catered one of my former students' weddings not too long ago, and it was a surprise to her and to the other former students that were at the wedding, because I'm like walking around going, would you like a meatball? And it was like I had like completely denigrated their degrees, because here I was, their professor person giving them meatballs, and I'm like, but I love to give people meatballs. I would rather give people meatballs 90% of the time. So yeah, so definitely that working class idea, life, it's everything, I think, in my work, and the way I see the world too.
Yeah. We're about at the 10-minute left limit. So before I ask any more bullshit questions and take up any more of your valuable reading time, which one of you would volunteer to go first? I'd like you both to read something for us.
You want to read, Jay?
Oh, you go first.
Newman, you just won a big prize.
Yes, you go first.
Which Newman just won a Rattle poetry prize, which is a huge, huge deal. Like as a poet, I cannot stress to people that don't know poetry enough. This is like almost like winning an Oscar. It's like winning a Tony. Like, it's really respectful, but it like doesn't,
Right. It's not an Oscar. It's not you're not on the Today Show afterwards. Yeah.
Go ahead. You're up, Newman.
No, it was awesome to win, but I mean, I don't also just I know that like luck is 90% of those 95% of those things. So I never enter contests. I just totally quit them. But I really like Rattle as a magazine, and basically you get a subscription for entering their contest. So I was like, that seemed worth it to me, and so that just luck is all that it was.
And it was a great poem too.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to read a poem called the book of poems that's coming out on Roadside is kind of a lot of it's about working class writers and small press poets and people like that. And so there's a lot of longer poems that probably aren't appropriate to this for people like Fred Voss and Joan Job Smith and just kind of people I really admired when I first started writing who were still out in the world and not in the academy and writing about real things. But this is just a poem more about poetry. It's called Beautiful American Songs. He said, "You really must read Neruda in Spanish. If I learned every language of every poet I love, I'd never have the time to read any poetry, and the hole in my head would be the size of the midday sun. Neruda sings to me the way Neruda sings to me. I like it, and it doesn't take a doctorate to know that. He said, English just doesn't capture the music. Okay, I understand that we're a country of race car drivers, football fans, crooked politicians, and rock and roll reporters, but tell me you don't love the sound of your own voice. Tell me that the word poontang isn't, in its beautiful American way, a song. Thanks.
As a poet that has tried to learn Spanish, just for that reason has failed.
Yes, totally. I'm like, that is just an endless quest to start doing that.
But mine was Rogue Dalton. I wanted to learn because of Dalton.
Okay, I respect that.
Jakiela, you want to read one?
Sure. I'm just going to read this. It's a little micro essay that starts my new book with Roadside. And the book is called All Skate, but it's about all sorts of different midlife things, but a lot about work. And this is about, we were talking about being a flight attendant, so this is from that. The art of the takeoff. My favorite thing about flying is takeoff. I love the rev of the engines, the feel of throttling down a runway at 600 miles an hour, the miracle of that. I love the way the landing gear lifts and locks into place, slam, dunk, no turning back. I love the magic carpet whoosh of air beneath my feet. I was a flight attendant for years, trained to pay attention to every sound and motion, the whir of wing flaps, the thrum of the hydraulics, the way ascent feels, the steep, smooth climb, the gravity-defying beauty of that. I loved and still love every impossible thing about flight. I love the way something so heavy can become, in an instant, seemingly weightless. If something so huge can go airborne with the weight of all those human hearts wrapped up inside, anything is possible.
I love hearing anything that's not poetry that's read and it sounds like poetry. It's like when I write novels, like some of my favorite writers are that way. You know, like that's. Anyway, thanks for joining me tonight.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, friends. You can support this project and all of the artistic creative work by artist and author Dan Denton by visiting www.thelunchbucketbrigade.wordpress.com. That's www.thelunchbucketbrigade.wordpress.com. And if you're interested, you could catch me at the following live performances out on the road April 24th on a Thursday in Seymour, Indiana at the Magic of Books, where I get to participate in a show called The Pick and the Pen, featuring music and poetry with musician Tommy Bays, songstress Katrina Harper, and a lot of poets, including me, Christine, Wendy Cartwright, and International Beat Poet Laureate Lifetime Emeritus Ron Whitehead. And you could catch me at Gonzo Fest in New Orleans, Louisiana. Yes, the festival to honor the life and legacy of the late, great Hunter S. Thompson. Your boy Dan Denton will be there, a featured poet amongst 49 other poets. Come see us May 15th through the 18th in New Orleans at Gonzo Fest. See you out there on the road. And finally, my last guest, this last segment, this is going to be a regular monthly thing where I end this show every month with a guest that inspires me. And I'm honored to bring to you my brother from another, Jelani, a.k.a. the Knightheart. Jelani is one of the best rappers in Toledo, a young man that's created a business called Manifest LLC that promotes shows, does charitable work in Toledo, and now he's on the board of directors at Family House, a homeless shelter for families in Toledo. And he's just one of the most incredible and inspiring artists and friends that I've ever made in my life. And I hope that you will welcome me and welcoming to the show my brother, the Knightheart. Hey, Knightheart, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Doing wonderful, man. How you feeling today, Dan?
Not too bad. It's been good to see you. That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, man. It's been too long, man. Always.
Yeah. So in this segment, since it's a pilot episode, I've been kind of explaining as I go. To end every show, I got to talk to somebody that inspires hope in me. Somebody that inspires me to work harder, to be better, inspires me to be a better writer and artist. And I can't think of anybody that I've met in the last probably 4 or 5 years that has inspired me more than my brother Jelani. It's good to see you, man.
That's love, man. I'm honored, bro. And honestly, the feeling's mutual, dog. Absolutely.
It's
Still
So
sharp and still, man.
Yeah, I met Jelani. Jelani is Are you still going by Knightheart?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So his stage name is Knightheart. The Knightheart.
Yes, sir.
I think, potentially the best rapper in Toledo. Certainly one of the best. And I'd have to think along on. There's a couple other considerations, but definitely one of the best rappers in Toledo. Knightheart has been rapping since an early young age. Has traveled the Midwest extensively, opening for some big names and headlining some big shows. And today, tell us, when did you start getting into spoken word and rapping?
So my inspiration for hip hop really comes young. I loved hip hop growing up. My mom was an MC, and I listened to her album growing up. That was really inspiring. I always loved hip hop culture, but I really didn't have much to say until we became homeless when I was young. I went through an extensive period of homelessness, bouncing around, living out of a duffel bag for a very long time during my formative years. And that was pretty much where I found writing. Like, it became my outlet and a space for me to find a way to self-express when I felt very alone and very emotionally broken. And so I started with poetry and spoken word, and being young, I started I was like 14, 15 when I started really taking it serious. And then I was like, man, honestly, I didn't really think no one would take me serious as a poet at first, being so young. So I was like, what would be cool if I put it over beats? And I started rapping. And so all of my early raps were just poems that I just converted into raps. And from there, songwriting started, right? Songwriting evolved from that. And I started just loving it, man. I performed pretty young, and the first time I performed my music and someone saw me and they and heard me, like, I actually felt seen. It changed my life, man. It changed my life. And the moment that what I made connected with someone and brought something out of them, that was the second layer of not only is this transformative for me, but what I can do is transformative for someone else too. It's a go. And so the music just kind of spiraled from there, man. It's been a long marriage with this music shit.
So you started writing spoken word and rap lyrics and putting it over beats and stuff at a young age, living in a very unstable environment.
Mm-hmm.
When did you hit the stage for the first time? At what age?
I was 13 when I hit the stage for the first time. Let's say when I started performing original content. I was in elementary school. They would let us cover rap songs and for the talent show. So even in elementary school, I was rapping at the talent show. I just wasn't performing my own stuff. So it's always been gravitating around me, but it really wasn't until I turned 13 that I hit the stage and did my own thing.
So at 13, in the middle of this unstable environment, you are rapping on stage in front of crowds.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's incredible. I don't know, when did your first album come out?
So I dropped my first mixtape on SoundCloud on the underground when I was about 15. And then I linked up with In Session Productions, Corey Todd, a mutual friend of ours, shortly after. And I think I released my first project with him when I was, what, 16? So I was still pretty young when I started working with Corey, and we produced my first like project. That one's not on music streaming, but that was the first thing we ever did together.
You have 6 full-length albums
Hmm.
you have released in the last 5 years.
Hmm.
The latest of which is Fangs, that came out
Hmm.
last year.
Yes, sir.
But 6 full-length albums in 5 years.
Hmm.
It's prolific, and it's good. I did
Appreciate
like a
you,
little
man.
refresher. I hadn't to listen to Fangs much lately. So I
Hmm.
gave myself a refresher today. I listened to Fangs a couple times through today, and then I went back and listened to all the albums you have on my
Hmm.
music platform, and I can see the progress. I can see, but yeah, that's prolific, man.
I appreciate you, man. It's been an evolutionary process for sure. It's been experimenting, figuring it out. I've openly put my growth on these platforms. So, I know I've grown a lot and evolved a lot as a musician, but I'm not afraid for people to see the process. Like I want people to go and see, oh, like this is where he came from. This is how he got to here. Because this next album and what I'm working on now is even, more confident, but when I'm inspired by creatives, man, I'm inspired by creatives and being surrounded by people like Corey and musicians like Zach early on really, really helped put the gasoline in my back.
Yeah. So beyond the 6 full-length albums in 5 years, one of the things that really inspires me even more than the incredible story that the Knightheart has just told us, uh, is once you like got through that first couple albums, like I can't remember, like it was just a few years ago. Like I've known you, I think 4 or 5 years now. In
Hmm.
the first year or two I met you, you were asked to go back to Family House and
Hmm.
talk, and then you started doing benefits like with through some of your concerts. So talk to us about so during the unstable periods of your youth, your family lived at Family House, correct?
Yep.
Uh,
Leading families. Oh, go for it, man. What are you about to say?
I was going to say, and then you got asked to come back and like speak at one of their big events. So tell us a little bit about Family House, will you?
Absolutely, man. Leading families home played a big part in my family gaining stability and kind of being like a string line during our homelessness for a while. Community support's really difficult, and when you fall below the waistline, man, there's not a lot of institutions or people out there who really honestly care, and so luckily leading families home were there when a time when we really needed them and was kind of the beginning of us transitioning back into what we call normalcy, I guess. And so as soon I started really like writing like songs and poems in the shelter. Like I remember distinctly writing songs in the shelter, and those were the songs I went to go perform too. So it was a very personal relationship. And when I got to a point where I saw like there was some form of like tangible resources I was making off my music, I wanted to do something, right? I can't do everything. I'm not a millionaire, but if I can make a small drop in the bucket to help somebody out, that definitely meant a lot to me. And developing that relationship with them, I've been invited to be a part of the board now, so I'm a part of helping kind of assist on more of a macro scale now, which is different for me. I was on behind the scenes just trying to help, but now I'm more involved now and trying to take on a more leadership involvement with it. And so that's been a change as well. But man, it's a blessing, man. I'm grateful to be anywhere in the ecosystem, and especially considering I started off as a part of the shelter system.
Man, I didn't know that you were on the board now. Congratulations, brother. I'm so proud of you, man.
Thank you, man.
That's beautiful.
Appreciate you, man.
That's
Thank you.
and I think, and then Heart and I were talking before we started recording briefly about, like a mutual admiration for seeing people trying to do good, man. And that was like the first thing when I met you. I was like, man, this is a human, despite anything else going on, that's trying to like do good and like spread love and like give back to the community, man. And that's, I think about, and I know you understand what I'm talking about. Some of my favorite artists in the hip hop genre. And people are always shocked, first of all, that a guy looks like me is like loves hip hop. But I love
Yes,
art
sir.
music. But also I tell them, I'm like, I grew up an angry kid in the projects in the 80s and 90s. Of course I love rap, like
Mm-hmm. Heard.
some of my favorite, even hip hop artists, my favorite artists in general are some of those like tough guys, tough people that survive like those tough environments or tough beginnings, but then they grow up to not only be that tough guy or tough person survivor, but they have like an empathy
Mm.
and like you know what I'm saying, like an underlying. It's like that rose in concrete. It's like a beautiful
Mm.
thing to watch somebody grow up to be kind and empathetic, but have that tough exterior. And I
Mm.
think that your rap and you and your and what and who you are really embodies that for me, man.
I appreciate that, man. I definitely appreciate that, man. I you got to develop the suit of armor. That's where Knightheart came from. Developing a suit of armor around the heart. But keeping the heart as much as you can. But you got to protect your heart too. And you got to have a suit of armor, especially in this world, man. I will say, man. Ooh, sometimes I'm a little sensitive, man. I think that's the artist in me. You know what I'm saying? Being able to feel the world and to understand, to see things and to just want to play a part in it, man. Like I am human. I'm not perfect. And I want people to know that. And I want me not being perfect to be the reason I'm able to connect with people. I think everyone deals with their own battles. And I think the most human thing you can do is just connect with the fact that everyone's struggling with something, and no one's got the answers. No one's got the answers. But if we can all kind of help each other along the way, man, we can go a lot further. Like, seriously. Like,
Yeah. Talk to me about so what the Nightheart. At what age did you develop that stage name?
so it took me about like the first year. I think I started like really taking the Nightheart serious around 14, 15. I started off with a whole other rap name. It was terrible. It was terrible. But I thought people wouldn't take Nightheart serious. I thought people would think it was corny at first because it was different than what a rap name should have been. And it took me a long time to grow into it. Honestly, I was so much younger than a lot of the other rappers in the scene with this weird name talking in poetic hieroglyphics. I knew that I was just this outlier that no one was going to take serious. So I thought if I took on another name that maybe other people would, respect me more. But I've grown into it and I've loved the stage name. I prefer Jelani personally because Nightheart's grown to become more of something that I feel like represents anyone involved within it. Whether it's J-Ro playing guitar, whether it's someone doing merch, whether it's my DJ. Like I look at it as all like we're all Nightheart, and I'm just Jelani, and I am the big part of the Nightheart. I may be the front man, I may be the brains, but I can't do this alone. I can't do this alone. So if I feel like everyone who's a part of this becomes the Nightheart when they get in part.
Your last album came out last year. Your latest album, Fangs.
Yeah. Yes,
Uh,
sir.
Tell us about Fangs.
So Fangs was like an experimental, man. It was us trying to play with some high energy, some high tempo. Most of the records off of Fangs are like live performance records. A lot of these ones are great for the shows. There were some records me and Corey were sitting on for a long time, and I was listening to them with Jay, and we were like, man, we gotta do something with this. So Jay Ro laid some strings on them. We polished some of them up, and we were just like, yo, let's put it to the people. So it was something experimental and fun. We were playing with some high energy stuff on our way to this next project, which is going to be a lot more soulful and a lot more just personal. This one's going to be a lot more personal. But Fangs was just so we can turn up and have a good time.
Uh, so you got a new project you're working on now?
Ooh, man, yeah. This one's means the world to me, man. This is my baby. This is my baby.
Who you working with? Can you tell us anything about the new project?
Ooh man, we got some really dope collabs on this one, man. I got some bigger features on this one. I can't say who yet, man, but I'm this is the first time like really working with some artists that are on like a whole different scale than me, and salute to just being in a position now to be working and collaborating with these kind of producers and artists. And man, this was one really like, so it's called Faith Over Fear, and it's the philosophy of it is just giving people motivation and inspiration to maintain strong. I want to instill people in that philosophy to have faith over fear, and life, have faith in themselves. And fear is such a big blockage for so many people, and doing the things they love, achieving their dreams, and really just living their best life. And if they have faith and they lived in faith, uh, I just want to push that. So this album encapsulates that, and a lot of the records are very, very good for the soul, I feel.
Uh, Tell me about some. You got any big shows coming up?
Yeah, man. So we're gonna be at Frankie's May 8th. I'm gonna be rocking with the hip hop artist from Las Vegas named Dizzy Wright. Super dope artist. Super excited to be working with him. I'm gonna be out in Fireside, Michigan in April 26th. It's gonna be a super dope show with the homies from the Michigan area. And then I'll be doing some shows this summer. They're not announced yet. I ain't gonna say nothing, but it's gonna be some dope stuff, man. Just trying to stay active, stay on the road, and connect with new people while I can, man.
I got to open
Mhm.
for some rap shows that you did,
Yeah,
and
man.
I have gained some of the best fans that I never would have gained from reading at the library. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
And like you guys, like I've read with like punk bands a couple times and stuff, but reading with the hip hop artists really kind of changed my mindset to like, shit, I can read anywhere, really.
Facts, man.
Find the right
Nah,
people to
man.
mix in with your crowd, like you can do this anywhere, you know?
Yeah, man. That's real, man. We rock with you over here, man. Anytime, man. You
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 invited to the cookout anytime, Dan. Don't
I
worry.
appreciate that, brother. I really do, man. It means so much to me. But you guys have really mixed in like different genres of art together too. Like you're not just
Yeah,
straight like a hip hop artist. Like you're more than
yeah,
that. But
yeah.
there's like
We
you've mixed hip hop with other bands. I've seen you do it at
mm,
Holland House a couple times with different
mm,
people. With me even.
mm.
Um,
Yep.
I feel like there's a collaborative energy that comes from that makes all of us better.
Man, good art, good music, it all speaks the same, bro. It's all the same universal language, man. Like, and when you feel it, you feel it. The genre don't matter, man. It's about the spirit of it. And when you feel the spirit of the art, the spirit of the music, you know it, man. You ain't gotta ask.
Are you still doing Manifest LLC?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're gonna be running. We've been focused on just the concerts and throwing shows. Late last year, we did about 6 shows, and the year before that, we did about 8 shows. Um, it's been difficult doing like because my solo career's been picking up, like balancing the solo career and then trying to do things through Manifest. So there's been a balancing act there. But whenever I can throw any concerts or get any community outreach, I always try to run it through Manifest.
Yeah. Uh, Tell me about some artists that have inspired your journey, like people that you've looked up to in the big picture. You know what I'm saying? Like, what artists inspire you?
Um, I would say early on, man, like, my mom was the first MC that ever inspired me. Then she introduced me to Tupac really early. That inspired me. I think Eminem was the first rapper that I really like intensively learned like every lyric to some of his lines and his bars. Like I was super deep into Eminem early, and I discovered J. Cole and his music really impacted me. Hip hop as a culture really embraced me, and I found a lot of home there. But then I've just been inspired by art in general, like movies. I'm inspired by poetry, visual art, books. I think that's where I draw a lot of my inspiration from, not just music, but also like pop culture and things like that. All forms of artistic mediums kind of inspire my songwriting, to be honest.
Hmm. Oh yeah. So what's this year look for? What like you got a project you're working on an album? You've got some big shows. Uh, like give me like the next 12, like next year. We were talking about like measuring ourselves a year from now. If we meet again, like tell me what you kind of envision happening in those 12 months.
You know, this album is big for me, man. This album has been a big agglomeration of damn near 2 years of my life now, and you know, in many ways, like I know it's gonna change other people's lives. I know it's gonna make a big impact, and I know it's gonna change my life, and I'm really excited to see how it does. You know, it's hard to say how, but I just feel it in my spirit, man. Like more growth, more elevation, more abundance, and you know, I definitely want to see myself in a position to where, you know, I'm just reaching more people. You know, I think ultimately, you know, my product has more attention than it's ever had. So now it's time to really make the impact. So, you know, shit. Let's hope for a viral video. Let's hope for, you know, shit. Put me on Jimmy Fallon. Hey, put me on Jimmy Fallon.
Oh yeah.
Late night.
Let's do it. That's where we need to see you a year from now on Jimmy Fallon, shouting out Toledo.
That's what I'm hoping, bro.
Oh yeah.
Nah, jokes aside, though, you know.
Nah, but you know, for real, like that's you know what I love the fact that here's two people that have experienced instability and homelessness and a lot of the ugly sides of life. Like we know where the holes in the safety net are, and look at us here dreaming about Jimmy Fallon. Look at us
You
here.
know, come on.
Most people where you come from don't get to have those daydreams. Dream big, man.
Mhm.
Fuck it. You know, like
Yeah,
everybody else
man.
said, you know, why not?
Exactly, man.
Yeah,
I
man.
hear you, brother. I hear you, brother.
Yeah. Fuck, I had one other question now I forgot because I was so excited to tell you that. But one final question.
Uh-huh.
How often do you sit down and work on writing and like your music? Every day?
Yes. So, I always play instrumentals every day. I'm always freestyling, or writing. I'm a big freestyler. I'll try to always, because flows and bars and like things will come off top. So like even if I'm not proactively like penning, you know, I'm always trying to keep a creative mind stimulated. It's like a muscle, you know, I'm developing the muscle every day, and it's not work for me. It's just me exercising, you know. So I try to always get some exercise, and I can't say every day, but damn near every day. I'll be up there. I'll be getting my gains in.
I can almost imagine you know walking around with your headphones just all day long, you know, when you have time. Like
Yep. Yep.
cool.
Yep.
We're running out of time, brother. Thank you so much for being you and inspiring me and giving me hope. And I hope that your story inspires somebody that watches this, you know.
Hey man, I love you, man. Thank you for having me on. I really hope that, you know, we're able to make an impact with this one, brother. And I just know that there's way more bigger things to come for both of us in the future. And I look forward to connecting with you more, man.
Oh yeah, our paths will cross soon. I know they will.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're gonna do some epic stuff, man. Trust and
Oh yeah.
believe.
All right, man. Love you, man.
Love you too, brother. You stay safe, man. Good talking
You
to you.
too. Bye bye.